Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem El Shai, Ba'ashem Harakah Kodash. Double honors unto the elders of Great Millstone and rule well. And shalom to the hopeful elect. This is Paya Allah, and this is a commentary on the book of Esther, the second chapter. Esther 2 and 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Azarias was appeased, he remembered, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her, and then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. Now, the king, as in the previous chapter, he was in his wine. So he went after the decree or the knowledge of his wise men of what action he should do due to the grievous circumstances of Vashti had brought to that situation. But in all of that, it speaks to Azarias basically being, he remembered Vashti. And that speaks to, obviously, he was in love with her. As you read through this chapter, you kind of understand that, she went through a process to get that crown upon her head. So he would have loved her very dearly. And obviously, after a while, he's got concubines upon concubines, but still, there's a woman he chose and he was in love with her. Vashti, as her name is, means beautiful. So, that speaks to, if there's a queen that's called beautiful in the Bible, you better believe that she was a very beautiful woman. But reading on verse 3, and let the king appoint officers, and that's why it says desire a woman not for her beauty, all right? Because beauty, a lot of the times, tends to be a snare onto the women, all right? The Most High, I forget the word right there, the woman of wisdom, basically deprived women of wisdom. So they're not the wisest, and when they're given something, as their glory is their hair. So they're gonna if you imagine, that's why they sit in front of a mirror doing makeup, playing with their hair, because it's a vain thing. So it shows you the whole thing about a woman is vanity, all right. But then if you have that, to the 100th power, you can only imagine how vain a woman is gonna become. But reading on, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Higi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. So you can see even with this that the king couldn't go back onto Vashti because of the decree. But obviously, he must have been fiending for that box, man. That's why this decree was made in this place. Like, get over that woman and get under a new woman, basically. In the words of Cameron, Killer Cam Giles. But reading on verse 5. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shammai, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, all right, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. He brought up Hadassah, all right, that is Esther, that's her Hebrew name, which Hadassah goes back to Hadassah, I believe. Hadass is myrtle in the masculine form. Hadassah is myrtle in the feminine, which really, as we read into it, is kind of deep, because I may do a video, like a quick video, 2, 3 minute, 5-minute video, go into a couple things, because even the name Esther goes into star, Venus, which is, certain things to that as well. but Hadassah speaks to, there's a connection between the two. I found a connection between the two just by chance. That is Esther, his uncle's daughter. For she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful. For Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took his own daughter. Right, she's his cousin, younger, of course, a maiden, a virgin of a marriageable age. She would be described as a Bafwala, right, or Alma, a virgin, a young, favorable maid, all right. So it came to pass that when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, the custody of Hegai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Hegai, the keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. All right, how do you think she pleased him? She would have showed the kind of decorum that other women wouldn't have shown. And this is the thing that our people are known for. When you go into the book of Lamentations, it speaks to the glory of our people. All right, and it speaks also to the glory of our, will the pearl of all the provinces. And also, it's, the law will be our glory upon the nations. That they would basically see it and think like, oh, how such wise and intelligent ways, these laws, basically. And also, it was a point of contention with the other nations, all right? In Wisdom of Solomon, funny enough, breaks that down, all right? But the point is that this is, even in the Proverbs, it speaks to soft words abate of anger, all right? Something to those words. But the point being is that she had been patterned in a certain way by her uncle Mordecai, or say cousin Mordecai, her older cousin Mordecai, to think and act in a certain way. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to be given her. Alright, so she had 7 maids to work with her, and she had everything needed for her purification. Alright, he hasted to give it to her. That's how much favor she had in his eye, out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids onto the best place for the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her with that she should not show it. Alright, and this really shows you that there weren't these Persians, they ain't no high yellow or like white looking people, because they would have jumped for her to hide her kindred. It shows you that the phenotypes and the looks of the people were greatly different from what they were today. All right. So reading in the Mordecai walked every day before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now when every man's maid was come to go into King Ahasuerus' after that she had been 12 months, sorry, let me read that again. Now when every maid's turn was come to go into King Ahasuerus after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the women, for so were the days of their purifications accomplished, to wit 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and other things for purifying of the women, which, her name, Hadassah, right, being myrtle. The oil of the myrtle tree is it can be used as deodorant, antibacterial. It had many good uses, alright, in, the Roman times. And Esau's always going to go back to the Roman times, but that our people would have used it as well. There's speaking to things of the myrtle tree within the scriptures, alright. I haven't looked deeply, but hey, it's there. Then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. And that evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the women, that to the custody of Shah Ashkas, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came in unto the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name. All right. So she got moved into a whole different house. All right, one step closer to the king. All right. Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abiel, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but Haggai, the king's chamberlain. But what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. Right. So basically, what he gave unto her was all she required. She didn't ask the king for nothing when she was with him. And that really shows you these other women, they would have been known, they would have been told. I'm reading between the lines of things. These other women, they would have gone through that process, that treatment, and even before that. Remember, these are women from 128 provinces, I believe it is. All right, 127. I thought so. 127 provinces. Okay, so basically, and that being said, these are women that, like you got your local Badina, the girl that's locally, that she's one of the most fire girls in your area. Like, my girl, yeah, she's, oh, man, everyone's trying to get her. If there's a night out of shubs, a little club night or whatever, everyone's at the bar, they're trying to snipe my girl. But now you imagine that you've been appointed to be the one woman within that province, or the handful of women from 127 provinces to be brought before the king. That's gonna do all kind of things to your head, man. All right, especially a woman. All right. So they get before the king, they probably lose their mind and ask for stupidness and things like that. But Esther showed a decorum, a humility that the other women didn't find, that couldn't be found in the other women. So I'll read that point again. She required nothing but what her guide, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of women, appointed. All right, he gave her those things. He said, "Look, take these things," and she didn't ask for nothing more. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. So she was looked upon favorably, not only by everyone that was in her, around her. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in 10th month, which is in the month of Tebeth. So you can only imagine what kind of words they had to say unto the king in terms of which woman is your wife in the 7th year of his reign. And this really is very telling, because this just shows you, and this is something, man, you can go on with the red pill and MGTOW. MGTOW ain't really a thing no more, but the red pill, the manosphere, basically these are things that men will always say about women, that if a woman, is peaceful, she don't talk too much, she's just cool, laid back, she'll get everything from a man. And then women, these new modern women will buck up and say, they'll start screaming, mumbling away, backbiting. But in reality, you're being given like jewels and gems that will basically give you great favor amongst, multiple men. All right. And if you just do it, this is an account that really shows you that, to the point where this woman became a queen. Princess, queen over an empire, okay, ruling over the whole world at the time. Okay, so reading on verse 17. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. And these girls are all virgins, by the way. So that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. And the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made it's lucky, I just remember the other tap guy. Let me just read this again. It's lucky, man. Random thoughts just running through my mind. Verse 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king. Salakia, man. Salakia. Salak. Let me read that again, verse 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. All right? And he made a release of the promises. Yeah, what's on my mind is so far removed from this. This is fucking random. And he made a release to the promises and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. And that shows you a lot. That right there. I gotta highlight that because that speaks volumes. Alright? Through the guidance of her elder cousin, alright, who basically adopted her as a father figure, a strong male figure within her life. He basically coached her throughout her life, and then to the point where she gained favor in the midst of other men. And mind you, this man works within the king's gate, right? So it shows you, as we know in the ancient world, the gate is basically like the focal point of any city, any kingdom. If you sit at the gate of, like, this is the gate of gates, all right. In terms of, this is at the palace of the Heavenly Father. So lucky at the palace of the ruler of the empire. You sit there, that says a whole lot. All right, I mean that you have favorable wisdom, you have knowledge, beyond your years, so to speak. All right, so the fact that she followed him came favor, worked in her favor. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. And this really shows you as well, the men of today, all right, if you usually find a woman that has strong, a strong moral compass, a man was the one that gave her that compass in the first place. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on the king Azarias. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it to Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of this matter, it was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. So Esther gave Mordecai credit. So with that, I pray you're edified to the next one. Shalom. Shalom.